So let's take a break from reviewing gear this week and let's have a chat instead. This video is really more for beginners and it is on the topic of system matching and synergy. Now I've covered this topic a few years ago with Jay and I'll link to that video in the first comment. Also, I've created a playlist of all the discussion videos I have made and we'll also link that in the first comment. The reason I like to revisit this topic is because I think a lot of newcomers to this hobby don't truly understand how important it is. It would not surprise me if a newcomer would think that if he bought all the best review products, he will automatically have the best system. Think about it. After all, videos with best of the best in the title tend to get lots of views. Although to some extent, it is true that you should get something decent sounding, it is not always the case. Because if the matching is bad, the sound will be just okay. For me, there's a difference between a good match system and a system with good synergy. Now let me explain. So good match, a system that has good matching. Let's take a speaker like the Focal 936 for example. I had that speaker before and it is extremely detailed on the top end. The bass is a bit on the light side because it's all about speed with those flex cones. Very easy to drive, and if I have to choose an amp that will match well with it, it would be the HIFI H300. You get plenty of power for the bass and the older HIFI sounds a bit more on the smooth side. So smooth amp plus break speaker equal good balance. This is usually how I recommend gear based on the characteristic. You counter one character with another so it brings balance to the force. So that is what I meant by a good match. Now good synergy on the other hand is when you match a few components together and it makes you go like what the F? How? It means the combo elevates its performance to the next level. You realize that because you have used each component separately before in different systems and you know its level. So when you combine it together, you're like, I don't remember this DAC or whatever sounds so good. Now the problem with good synergy is there is no actual rule to achieve it, and that is annoying. It's pure luck. Plug it in and listen. That is one golden rule I learned with audio after owning like maybe 90 pairs of speakers, amps and preamps, and you know what? You never know until you plug it in. That is why when I get comments from all those know-it-all telling me it should sound like this or that cannot sound good, it drives me nuts, man. Okay, I will stop, else this will end up as a rant video. So let's get back to you never know until you plug it in. Let's take my Focal 1008 BE for example. It's a speaker that uses beryllium tweeter, a bit on the bright side, extremely detailed. So in my mind, I want to pair it with something on the smooth side to balance it, right? Good matching. However, as I said, synergy does not work like that. If you think about it, the beryllium tweeter is all about micro detail and clarity. So let me ask you, why are you trying to pair it with something to push down that strength? Why are you not trying to embrace it and enhance that strength with bright sounding gear? I have the Moon 34i integrated amp, very analytical, slightly on the bright side and clear sounding. With my logic, it should not match well with my Focal 1008 BE. However, when I put them together, that is when I realized, wow, this is where the beryllium tweeter really shines. And I also get to hear what the Moon 34i can really do, because I remember when I paired it with cheaper speakers, the Moon was just marginally better than my other entry-level gear. Now, I never paid $5,000 for that amp, but with the right matching, this is where you see the gap pulling away. To really let you see how important system matching and synergy is, let me tell you some real life story. Now, today I will purposely make it long and go into detail, so yeah, you should pause and go get a coffee. Now, usually I try to get straight to the point, but since today's video is over already, I might as well try something different and really tell you a story, like in detail. So first story, I have this audio buddy whom I call Mr. Jazz. He changes gear like he changes underwear. Always something new in his system. Now, although his system is quite expensive, he does not mind trying entry-level gear. Now, not all my friends are like that, okay? He's not that kind of snob, you know, what, it's only $5,000? That is the best you have heard? No, it's not that kind of person. So recently he sold his Lindorf 1120 and he asked me to borrow a DAC while shopping for a DAC. Now all my DACs were loaned out to my buddies already, so I told him I don't have anything. So he decided to get an entry-level DAC on, I think it was on Amazon. That's because, you know, while he's shopping for an expensive DAC. So the next thing you know, he told me he bought this affordable Soncoz DAC. And he loves it. Way more than all the DACs I've lent him before, like the Topping, the SMSL, and a bunch of other. I'm like, huh? A $500 DAC can do what? So I asked him to bring it over. After just a few minutes of listening, I message Hi-Fi Go and tell them, all right guys, send me one. You see, they asked me a little while ago if I would review it, and I told them, man, DACs, I'm done, man, no more review. But after hearing this DAC, I said, yeah, this is worth a conversation. Now guys, don't go out to buy one until you see my upcoming review. That DAC is special, but just wait, okay? So while Mr. Jazz lent me his DAC, I lent him my Topping D90SE and my Classe CP800 preamp. Around that time, Mr. Jazz received his new speakers, a brand new pair of Verity Audio Parsifals. That was the anniversary version. And he was driving it with a pair of 100-watt pure classy Passlab XA100.5 monoblocks. So that combo carries an MSRP of about $50,000. He was using my Classe preamp, which is about $5,000, and he told me the combo is fantastic. Well, I hope so, right? At $50,000, you know, it better be fantastic. After a while, he came to pick up his Soncoz DAC, and that night he sent me an email. It was the first time he listened to his new Parsifal speakers with that DAC. Now he removed the Topping D90, the Classe CP800, and let me remind you, that combo is around $6,000. And he replaced it with this $500 DAC. Guess what? He said the Parsifal sounded so much richer, well, much richer. You can see music flowing in the room, not flat anymore. They punch and the dynamics fill up his room. As he described, jamais vu experience. He said, who would have thought this $500 DAC can outperform something 10 times its price? Now, but I'm sure if you bought this $500 DAC and put it in your system, you will not get the same experience because of synergy. When there is synergy, the overall performance is greater than what you would expect. Now, I had this Soncoz DAC at my place, so I know what level it is. If Mr. Jazz did not tell me his experience, I would say there is no way it can beat my Classe CP800 plus Topping D90SE DAC. After this experience, Mr. Jazz, like Yoda, shared with me his wisdom. He said, the audio world is like fashion. A good match is more important than wearing clothes with a high price tag. Look, I know what high-end gear can do, and most of my buddies too, okay? But if you have an open mind and don't look at gear in terms of price, in today's world, you will be very surprised when the matching is good. So, let me finish with a story of my own. You might want to refill your coffee because it will be a long story. So a few years ago, a local retail store, Centre Hi-Fi, invited me to go check out their store because the owner happened to be a subscriber of mine. At the time, they were building like dedicated listening rooms for their more high-end systems in the stores. So after spending a bit of time listening, while I was about to leave, I came across this little bookshelf speaker system. And the salespeople told me this specific combo was well reviewed in a local magazine. Like, it has to be that specific combo. Now, I remember Mr. Cantor was with me at the time and he was not interested to check it out because, you know, we were just listening to some pretty fancy good system. So like he wandered off. Me, on the other hand, out of politeness, I told the salesperson, sure, show me what this little system can do. And so he turned it on, and I was like, holy cow, I'm more impressed with this system than all the other systems I heard that day. Now, my other audio buddies, Mr. Vintage and Mr. Kanta, was there, and I told them, guys, come on over, man, you gotta listen to this system. And yeah, they were very impressed also, very surprised. Now, keep in mind, this system, unlike the other high-end systems, it was on display in a very big open space. So it was not in a room. So they were able to push the volume really loud, and the dynamics were spectacular. This speaker, the Mission LX2 Plus, left a strong impression on me. So over the years, I tried to look for one on the used market because, you know, I'm too cheap to buy it new. So my hunt continued for a few more years, and eventually I came across one, but it was in another city, 2 hours drive away on the highway. But I really wanted it. Unfortunately, the owner was willing to drive halfway. Still, 2 hours go and come back. And I was still willing to do it because, you know, the things we do for audio, that passion, right? Oh, by the way, it's funny because when the seller showed up, the first thing he said was, Thomas and stereo! I knew it was you when I heard your voice on the phone. I watch all your videos. You see, he bought this LX2 Plus because he saw John Darko's video on it. Now, Darko made a video on this LX2 Plus, but the video was about a system as opposed to just about these speakers. Darko made a good point. Anyone can make a video on speakers, but not all can make a video on a good matching system. Excellent. Anyways, so once I got the speaker back home, just before I powered it up, I quickly listened to these Sonus Faber Liuto speakers that I received the same day. I did that because it was already plugged in and it sounded very musical. But after 30 minutes, I was like, forget the Sonus, man. What I really want to listen to is the LX2 Plus. So I pushed the Sonus away, plug in the Mission LX2 Plus. I decided, you know what, I'm going to drive it with the Willsenton R800i. 48 watts of single-ended pure Class A power with glorious 805 tunes. Now, I've driven many speakers with the Willsenton R800i, and it sounds fantastic. So you can imagine my sadness when it did not sound spectacular with the Mission LX2 Plus. I was like, is it because I just heard the Sonus Faber, so when compared to it, there's a big gap? Now, it was a sad moment, years of hunting for this speaker on the used market, hours of driving, and this is the end result? I mean, it is okay, but nowhere near what I remember it to be. Perhaps my room? Anyway, you see the problem is the mid-range of the LX2 Plus is a bit hard sounding, not smooth. The R800 has a lot of texture in the mid, so it compounded the problem. So the mids were not inviting. Saddened by this initial addition, I decided to move on and try another amp. I then paired it with the VTV Class D Purify amp with a tube buffer. Guess what? It sounded fantastic. If you watch my Purify video, the way I describe that amp is that it is sweet sounding. Another way to say it is non-aggressive and the mids are smooth. Great match with the LX2 Plus. I can feel my excitement building up, and that is when I start having this big smile on my face and I start shaking my head while listening to music. So from being very sad to becoming overjoyed, you know, it was just because I changed the gear. My upcoming Willsenton R800i video will be positive. After you watch that video, and you might want to go buy one. And it's normal for you to expect it to sound amazing. Yeah, it does sound amazing with most of the speakers, but the thing is, just because it gets a good review does not mean it will sound excellent in your system. That is why with experiences like this, I hate answering people when they ask me if this amp will match well with that speaker. Before I plug in the Willsenton R800i to the Mission LX2 Plus speaker, I would not have guessed it is a bad match. Of course, now with experience, I know, okay, I would choose something with a smoother mid-range to go with the Mission LX2 Plus speakers. Also, by the way, it has to be the LX2 Plus, not the LX2, not the LX3, okay? LX2 Plus. And it's a great little speaker. So let's wrap it up at this point. Now, one crazy idea I had at one point was I offered this retail store to go in and use whatever he had to build a synergistic system. So instead of making a video on, let's say, a KEF LS50 Meta, for example, I will make a video on a matching DAC, amp, and even the cables at a specific price and for a specific taste. For example, if you don't like bright sound, what component to pair your LS50 Meta with so it sounds smooth for under $1,500. Now, this project is only possible with a store because I needed access to a lot of gear so I can experiment with mixing and matching. Now, I can build a good matching system with my own current gear, but a truly synergistic system, you need a lot of gear, time, and above all, luck. To build a good matching system, you can use logic, right? As I mentioned, bright speaker, okay, smooth sounding amp, yeah, that should be a good match. For a system with amazing synergy, there's no other way but to plug it in and listen. But trust me, it is worth the trouble. A synergistic system will outperform a good matching system at the same price. Now, the reason I never end up doing that video is because of COVID. And also with my new job and busy schedule, yeah, I don't know if I want to spend like 3 days in the store doing it. Maybe one day, who knows. Now, the reason I took the time to tell you all this story is because I remember Mr. Vintage. My audio mentor told me about synergy at the beginning of my audio journey. At that time, I remember, I asked myself, why is it that I spend money on buying all this expensive gear and sometimes it does not sound good? He told me it's synergy. To be honest, I was not totally convinced in the beginning, and it took me a while before I accepted. I know today's video probably is not really helpful in the sense I'm not telling you specifically what to buy. I mean, I get it, okay? But at the same time, this is one lesson I learned on my audio journey that I think is worth sharing. If you want to watch more synergy discussion, check out my video with Jay. Okay, I hope you enjoyed spending a bit of time with me today. And if you like listening to my stories, give me a like so it encourages me to do more. Now, if you think I talk too much, give me a dislike so I will focus more on reviews. All right, guys, till next time.